Actually, you know what? This was one of the last conversations that I had with Charlie Kirk. It was that infamous influencer retreat in the Hamptons. Excuse me, did you just like groan to that, Mayor? I don't understand that. Help us. Definition
this is such a bad faith reading of what I'm saying. Yeah. My question for you
but that was your exact
you just
answer.
Said your husband is more American than somebody else because he supports ICE agents. So explain to me how supporting ICE agents makes you more American.
And hit a 5-year-old girl who was president of the State of the Union. I could sit here for hours and give you the name of Americans who've been killed by illegal aliens. But you know what? The point is, we don't just need to allow illegal aliens in this country because they're not criminals.
Except the people you choose. It is white supremacists to say that. It is racist to say that, and it needs to be pointed out. And they say it's culture war. The real culture war is the cleansing that these folks are doing, calling it immigration reform, when you're really just attacking black and brown people on the street.
Let me ask you something right now. Did you catch how fast that mask slipped within seconds? We went from protect Americans to straight up fear politics. The second they can't win on facts, they reach for tragedy. They reach for emotional manipulation. They reach for illegal alien over and over again, like repetition magically makes it moral. And here's what really gets me. They always pretend this is about safety. It's always about the children. It's always about crime. But the moment someone pushes back and says, hold on, the Constitution applies to everyone, suddenly that's treason. No, what you just watched wasn't patriotism. That was panic. And when panic shows up that quickly, you already know somebody's argument is built on sand. Stick with me because it only gets worse for them from here. And if you already see what's happening here, drop your thoughts below. I want to hear how you read that opening exchange.
Come back to the panel. Raz Baraka, welcome to your uncensored debut. You're the Democratic mayor of Newark. It seemed to me that the two moments, if I was a Democrat, where I would in the morning be wincing, one is the one I mentioned to Brian, where I thought it was really reprehensible of Democrats to not stand up and show some respect to Anna Zarutska. But secondly, of course, this whole moment that Trump clearly set everybody up for, specifically hoping for the result that he got, which was a question. And it's a question I'll just ask you as a question, which is, do you believe the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens?
I think the first duty of any elected official is to uphold the Constitution of the United States and uphold the Constitution of the state that they're in. That's what we swear to when we do our oath, when we are sworn in any form of government at any level, to uphold the Constitution. And the Constitution clearly defines how our behavior is and how we should act, and who's protected. And everybody's protected based on our Constitution, based on the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, based on the 4th Amendment, based on many amendments. It's very, very clear who should be protected. And that's everyone who steps foot on the soil of our country. It's clear.
Well, that's not, with respect,
everybody.
Mr. Mayor, with respect, that's not answering my question. The question is actually very straightforward.
It's a very straightforward answer.
Okay, but the actual question is, do you believe the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens? It's not a difficult question.
It's not difficult. I just don't agree with the context. So you're not going to force me into that context. First, I don't believe that people are illegal aliens. I think that all people are human beings. And as a matter of fact,
what if you're in the country illegally?
Being undocumented in America is a civil offense. It's not a criminal offense. And I'm sure the children that they're arresting are not selling fentanyl, are not head of cartels, or any of that matter. So it's silly to even have that discussion. But ultimately, you asked me what is our primary duty, and I said my primary duty as an elected official is to uphold the Constitution of the United States. Should we protect residents and citizens of this country? Absolutely. No one would agree with that. But to break it down and make it divisive in such a way that there's some people that should be protected and some people that should not, is just wrong. And that's not what the Constitution states. And when I was sworn in, it says clearly that I should uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of New Jersey.
But people who are in the country illegally are there illegally.
There have been people in this country whose status have been taken away. And the interesting thing is when everybody comes into the United States, they don't come into the United States as a citizen. No one comes in as a citizen. Not in the history of this country. You don't become a citizen, then enter the United States. That's not how it works. You come here first and then apply for citizenship and go through the process, which usually takes, unfortunately, a very, very, very long time because we do not have a streamlined process, a unified and uniform process here in this country. And which means that anybody that is going through that process could be deemed at any point violating some kind of policy, some kind of law, and be detained. Whether you're 25, 35, 55, 65, or 10 in this country, which is incorrect. And for people to characterize you as a criminal or an illegal alien, it's just wrong. I'm sure your ancestors and the ancestors of the folks who came before you, who came from countries in Eastern Europe and western parts of Europe and Southern Europe, who showed up here on the shores through Ellis Island and went through the process to become citizens, if they were stopped in the middle of that process, in the middle of their hearing, and arrested and dragged through the streets and thrown out of the country and deported, people would think that that was wrong then, and I think it's wrong now.
Okay, Riley Gaines, your response to that?
Yeah, well, I guess just to provide a little color to that, my husband is a legal immigrant. He came to the United States from England back in 2018. He did everything the right way. I would describe my husband, I mean, I guess fully Brit, although now has his green card in the process for citizenship. I would describe him as more American than a lot of Americans who are currently citizens. He loves this country. He understands the freedoms that we have. He sees the trajectory of England, quite frankly. He is so grateful to be here. To your point, I do think our legal immigration system certainly needs reform. I think that process needs to be sped up and made more efficient. But my husband, he respects ICE officers. And President Trump, the address that we heard last night, you have to acknowledge the things that he said are the things that he campaigned on. It's the things that we voted for. So in talking about mass deportations or closing down the border, 77 million Americans turned out to the polls in November of 2024. That's what we voted for. So to see an entire political party, I mean, in terms of elected representation and even how the mainstream media presents itself, who is totally unwilling to concede in any form or fashion where they're not even able to say that their main priority is to protect Americans. I don't understand how that's not a disqualifying statement by, again, federally elected members of Congress. It seems to me as if that's an act of treason. If you can't even pledge allegiance to your own nation, that's a total act of betrayal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, do you think if you're in the country illegally, you've committed a crime?
In terms of being here illegally, I mean, as the mayor said, there are civil offenses versus criminal offenses, and I think that conflating the two is a major issue. I would respond to Riley's statement before. I don't understand what is with this conservative movement to qualify somebody's Americanness. Who are you to say that somebody is more or less American because of their adherence to certain political issues? Isn't that inherently un-American?
I guess my question for you is then just that: what is an American to you?
It's whatever you want to be. We have freedom to do, to believe in, to say, to practice whatever religion we want to. And so it's so bizarre to me for you to say, "Oh, my husband is more American because he salutes the flag and likes ICE officers." Who are you? Who is your husband to determine whether somebody is more or less American because of who they support?
If your definition to what is an American is anything you want to be, whoever says whatever they want to be can be an American, which is the exact same answer you guys give to the question, the very dreaded, controversial question of what is a woman, then are you saying that someone who currently resides in South Africa, who has never even been to America, who says they are an American, I guess by your definition, this
is such a bad faith reading of what I'm saying. My question for you
but that was your exact
you just
answer.
Said your husband is more American than somebody else because he supports ICE agents. So explain to me how supporting ICE agents makes you more American than somebody who doesn't support ICE agents.
My husband has fully assimilated to Western culture. He loves the freedoms that we have here.
So it's assimilation. You have to assimilate, otherwise you're not American. According to Riley Gaines, if you didn't assimilate enough, you're not American.
Right. I think in terms of what it means to principally, I'm not talking about legally, of course. I understand the argument of you need your paperwork, you need to be a citizen to be an American. Actually, you know what? This was one of the last conversations that I had with Charlie Kirk. It was that infamous influencer retreat in the Hamptons. Excuse me, did you just like groan to that, Mayor? I don't understand that.
God help us. I said, God help us.
I am entirely agree with you there. God, please help us.
Right.
One of my last conversations I had with Charlie Kirk was he posed this question to a room full of us in the Hamptons, asking, what is an American? And it left me kind of dumbfounded for a second because I didn't know, I'd never been asked this question. I didn't know how to answer this question. I never put thought into this question. But in thinking about it, yes, I believe my British husband is much more American than the members of Congress last night who couldn't even stand up to applaud no tax on tips, who couldn't stand to applaud a 100-year-old veteran who was being awarded a Medal of Freedom, or to applaud Irina Zarutska after being brutally and horrifically and graphically
the good thing
murdered.
About being an American is that you get to choose what it is that you believe, your ideas. You could be a Democrat or
kind
a
of like
Republican.
you get to
have the
choose
freedom
what
of
it means
speech,
to be a
the freedom
woman,
to assemble,
right.
the freedom of religion. You can choose these things. You don't have to stand on one side or the other to be an American. People who
I agree with that.
refuse, that's called democracy. And people who are against democracy, in my mind, are anti-American. And what you're saying and what has been going on is anti-democratic, and so it's anti-American in my estimation. You cannot tell people that you have to agree with me, you have to believe me, and you have to follow me.
No, you're not listening to what I'm saying.
It's absurd.
You're not. My husband loves America because we have the freedom to choose. He loves that we have the freedom to our religion. We have the freedom to press. We have the free. No, it is exactly what I said. If you would listen, I said my husband loves the freedom.
Riley, look. Let me just jump in. Riley, I would say that in relation to him assimilating to Western culture, just to remind viewers, Britain is part of Western culture, obviously. So the assimilation is not enormously difficult because he's British.
Entirely agreed. But I agree.
We are a Western culture. I don't feel like. I don't feel when I go to America that I'm entering some vastly different cavernous new culture. Natalie, let me bring you in here. This whole debate about whether people who are in the country illegally are breaking the law. I mean, it is a crime. I'm surprised to see a mayor of a major city trying to suggest that it's not a criminal offence to be in the country.
It's not a criminal offence. It's not my suggestion. It's actually the law. The law.
And might I just add, Mr. Mayor, that if your paramount value that you care about is promoting and supporting democracy in the United States, a lot of these illegal aliens that you're importing into this country, the Democratic Party did for the last, decades, 10 million plus under Joe Biden, aren't exactly coming from countries that even have democracies, let alone some of them actually aren't even countries. They're failed states, enter places like Somalia. I think we all know what happened in Minnesota. Right. I've never heard a more verbose and rambling answer to what should be probably the most simple thing that you could answer, that your primary duty is to defend American citizens. I've also never heard Democrats uncritically bring up, the Constitution. I thought you guys hated that document. Right. But here's the issue, and here's what I would say, Pierce. Here's how I would reframe this entire discussion. This weaponization of what it means to be an American, of immigration here, and give our culture war definitions of what it means to be an illegal alien, immigration, legal terms, whatever. The point is, reason why people are fed up with immigration and illegal immigration is because it's not actually about immigration. It is a scam that big businesses, all these donors that are funding all of those candidates and congressional members that you saw sitting at that State of the Union address, they just want cheap labor. That's all they care about. I'm sure that's all your donors care about. And that's why you're seeing a degradation of American identity so corporations can suppress the wages of Americans. You're saying, you know what? Your party can't even stand up for Americans who are hit by trucks, by illegal alien drivers. You think you care about the affordability, the lived experience, the economic reality of Americans? You can't even stand for killed Americans.
You are repeating a false statement.
No, there's an illegal alien truck driver that hit a 5-year-old girl. An illegal alien hit a 5-year-old girl who was president of the State of the Union. I could sit here for hours and give you the name of Americans who've been killed by illegal aliens. But you know what? The point is, we don't just need to allow illegal aliens in this country because they're not criminals. They depress the wages. They destroy the culture of this country. There's too many people. If you import tens of millions of people from other cultures, you no longer have a United States of America. Yes, you're seeing more than the GDP of Somalia be stolen from one state. You're seeing ethnic enclaves and Muslim enclaves happen in the state of Michigan. Look at Dearborn. Dearborn is not America.
The more she talks, the more racist it becomes. The fact that she's saying people come
No, I
from
care about your
countries-
citizenship.
people come from
American
countries
nationalism,
in her
economic
mind that are
nationalism is
failed
about
states.
maximizing the value
People come
of
to
being
this
an
country
American
because they're
citizen.
looking
And
for
you know what?
democracy.
Obama
All right, don't
agrees
talk
with
over
me.
each other.
Because if you
Because
look
they're
at the
looking for
studies that
democracy.
Obama put out about wages,
People
it's
come to
black
this country
Americans
because
who are
they're
the
looking
most
for
negatively
democracy,
impacted
because
by
they're
illegal
Please don't talk
immigration
over
when it
each
comes
other
to
because I
wage
can't hear
suppression.
either of
If
you.
you-
Opportunity. Well, tell
If
her-
you
tell
Okay,
cared
her
about
guys,
black
please
Americans,
stop
you would
talking
want to
over each
deport
other.
illegals.
I can't hear you.
Okay, well,
You're both
well,
talking at the same time. The
fine.
viewers
So I would like to
cannot
talk, so
hear
just-
either
I
of
was
you.
just
Let
accused
Let
of
me
being
ask
a
the mayor.
racist, so I'm defending
Please,
myself.
Natalie, let the mayor,
Right.
Mr. Mayor, explain
you.
why you think Natalie's being racist.
Absolutely. I think that, first of all, everybody, the fact that you mentioned people are coming from so-called failed states, people come here looking for democracy because they don't have it, looking for economic freedom because they don't have it. They're looking for, they're running from situations sometimes that are deadly, right? And so they come to the United States for safety, for security, for democracy that we've advertised to the world. So that doesn't matter. There were people who fled other countries that were not all of these countries she's talking about now, years and years ago, who came here from Eastern Europe, from Western Europe, from all over the parts of the world. For her to identify Somalia, just like the president of the United States did, to me is racist. At the end of the day, there are immigrants who come to America from all over the world. They want to choose who gets to come here and who doesn't get to come here based on their nationality, based on the country they come from, based on the religion they practice, based on the language that they speak. And she clearly identified by calling it an ethnic enclave. This is ridiculous. To be able to create a country that is devoid of anybody else in the world except the people you choose, it is white supremacist to say that. It is racist to say that, and it needs to be pointed out. And they say it's culture war. The real culture war is the cleansing that these folks are doing, calling it immigration reform, when you're really just attacking black and brown people on the streets and shooting people in the face who understand and see that and are trying to defend the democracy that this country upholds itself to be.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify one thing that's been rankling me since you said it, because I've just checked. You know, is entering the United States without authorization or inspection by an immigration officer a crime? Yes.
Notice something? Every single time the mayor brought up the Constitution, they pivoted. Every time Brian challenged the idea of more American, they deflected. And when the facts didn't land the way they wanted, they escalated. This is the formula. It's always the same formula. Start with a loaded question. Frame it so if you don't answer the way they want, you look anti-American. Then bring up an emotional tragedy. Then imply immigrants are draining the system. Then sprinkle in failed states to subtly code who they really don't want here. And here's the part they hate hearing. Immigration debates aren't actually about law and order. They're about identity anxiety. That's why the word assimilation keeps coming up. That's why they're obsessed with who counts as American enough. Because once you start ranking Americanness based on politics, based on culture, based on who you clap for at the State of the Union, that's not patriotism. That's gatekeeping. And if that bothers you, good, it should. Tell me honestly, do you think loving your country means agreeing with one political party? Or does it mean defending the Constitution even when it's inconvenient?
It's a misdemeanor punishable by a fine or up to
Right. It is a
up to
civil
6 months in
misdemeanor
prison.
Offense. That's what I said. That's
Well,
exactly what I said, Pierce.
Yeah,
I said it's a civil offense.
But it's not. It's actually a crime, though. It is a crime. Your reluctance to call it a crime is interesting.
If it's a civil offense, it's a violation. It's a civil violation, right, as opposed to a crime as a criminal offense.
There are other types of immigration violations which may be civil, but actually the offence of trying to enter without authorization or inspection by an immigration officer is a federal crime. And it seems to me that this is a fundamental tenet of the law, right? If you try and come in without authorization or inspection, it is a crime.
Well, we've acknowledged that it's a civil offense. The reality is there are people who are being targeted and attacked who are going through the process. There are folks that are being pulled out of hearings. There are people who have been outside of courthouses, finishing their hearing and being arrested. There are children who are going back and forth to school who are being arrested and detained, right? There are babies who are being detained and housed over periods of time. This has nothing to do with crime. In fact, as a mayor of a city, I can tell you clearly that if we solved for the immigrants in our city, our crime numbers would be extremely lower than they are now, because most of the crime in our city are not created by immigrants. It's just not. In fact, they are more likely the victims of crime than they are the perpetrators of crime. And this idea that immigrants are taking money from cities and states is ridiculous. I mean, there are immigrants who not only pay taxes, but contribute to the economy daily by purchasing goods and services on the open market. It's very clear. And to say otherwise is just not true. It's not proven. It's not true. It's just a talking point that Republicans and conservatives use to kind of stoke fear and division. But it's just not a fact.
Okay, let me ask Brian Tyler Cohen. As we head to the midterms, let's
let me leave you with this. Debates like this expose something bigger than immigration policy. They expose mindset. One side is arguing law through the Constitution. The other side is arguing identity through emotion. And emotion is powerful, especially when fear is involved. But fear doesn't build strong nations. Principles do. You can absolutely believe in border enforcement. You can absolutely support legal immigration reform. Those are legitimate conversations. What's not legitimate is weaponizing tragedy to paint millions of people as threats. What's not legitimate is deciding someone is more American because they politically align with you. Because once that door opens, it never closes neatly. Today it's immigrants, tomorrow it's political opponents. After that, anyone who doesn't clap loud enough. That's the slippery slope. And here's the irony. The loudest people claiming to defend American identity are the quickest to undermine the very freedoms that define it. Freedom of belief, freedom of dissent, freedom to disagree without being labeled anti-American. That's why this exchange matters. Not because it was loud, not because it was dramatic, but because it showed exactly how thin the line is between patriotism and exclusion when fear drives the narrative. So now I want to hear from you. Was this about protecting citizens, or was it about controlling the definition of who gets to belong? Drop your take below. Let's talk about it. And if you appreciate breakdowns that cut through the noise without playing the fear game, stick around